Hey guys, welcome back to the Ducati Scrambler Project. Today we have so much stuff to install on the Ducati that it might take 2 episodes. So, welcome to episode 1. Enough with the chit chat, let's get on it. As we all know, the Scrambler is not great off-road and it's not great on the road. And because I'm not gonna take the Scrambler off-road anytime soon, I decided to make it a little bit more road biased. How am I gonna do that? I'm gonna change the position of the rider on top of the bike by replacing those tall handlebar with a flatter Rizoma bar. At the same time, because the Rizoma bar are bigger than the OEM bar, I'm also going to replace the bar clamps with Rizoma bar clamps. Now, those clamps over here not only allow for a bigger diameter handlebar, they also move the instrument class from up front on a side to the center of the handlebar. So we're gonna put in those, and because we're going to the trouble to change all of that, I figure I can put in a set of Pro grips. The Pro grips are way softer, they're way grippier than the OEM, so why not? They're not that expensive. As you guys all know, this is my wife's bike, and when she rides the bike, there are a few things she doesn't like. Is the visibility of the mirrors, one of them. Therefore, we're gonna replace those sleek, nice small mirror with bigger mirrors. And she also laments a problem with the throttle being too snatchy, hence we're gonna replace it with G2 throttle tamer. The slick mirror most likely are gonna end up on the APRILIA, but we'll see if I can make something to adapt it into it. First thing I'm gonna do is remove those end guards, and that is fairly simple. Get a 6mm if you have the Autex end guard vibration damper, and just like any other end guard, you just undo it and pull it out. Easy as that. Next, I'm gonna loose up the throttle assembly with an 8mm over here. And at this point, the throttle assembly is free to pull out, but we're not gonna pull it out just yet. Next is gonna be the grip on this side. Here we go. Time to take care of the mirror assembly over here. And this is a 5mm. Just gonna leave it loose, and then once I'm about to remove the bars, I'm gonna slide everything off. And lastly, the switch assembly, which has 3 screws, 2 up top, 1 on the bottom, and it's 3mm. Remember, this one you might gonna have to loosen it up a little bit more because there is a prong that keeps it steady on the handlebars. So there is a prong that goes in that hole right there. With everything loosened up, it's now time to tackle the handlebar itself, and that is a 6mm. Here it goes. Well, we're gonna start removing stuff, so let's start with the throttle assembly. It's nice and easy coming out. Time for the switches out, and the brake lever. And I'm gonna keep everything on the side where it comes from. Moving on to this side, same thing. Remember, I velcroed the gear indicator, so I can just pull it off the velcro like that and pull the switches out and down. And now, because I have velcro on the way, I actually gonna have to loosen up just the clutch. And the handlebar is out. Since I don't want to remove the windscreen, I'm going to remove this first and then get the gauge cluster off of that. So to remove this is fairly easy. You need a 15 millimeters on the bottom. There is a nut, so hold that there, and then with the 8 millimeter Allen, it's time to crack it open. Easy as that. Remember, on the bottom you also have this big washer with the nut. And remember, nut and washer. Another thing to remember is under this there is another washer, so be careful with those. I believe you keep those washers with the Rizoma. Since there is gonna be a lot of pushing and pulling, you might want to elect to protect the tank and everything else with a rag. Other than that, I'm gonna start moving stuff around so I can remove the 3 screws in the back over here, and they are 4 millimeters. At this point, I should have enough room to undo the plug in the back. So you push in on the center tab and then you push out on the big tab. And that's it. This is out. So at this point, this assembly comes out. Remember, keep those 3 rubber washers over here. You're gonna need it. This might actually get discarded. Because we're repositioning the dash from up here to a central position, we need to reposition the OEM connector. As far as I can tell, obviously the connector cannot fit in this space over here, so as far as I can tell, there are only 2 little nuts over here that I can undo and move this whole assembly forward just enough to make this pass through. So I'm gonna do that. Another thing you might want to do at this point is to remove the plastic cover over here, and that is very easy. You just pop it up like this. Is kept in place by rubber bushings, so you just pop it and move it aside. So now you have a little bit more room to work. I'm gonna try to stick 10 millimeters in there and try to pull it out. It is time to start putting the Rizoma together. So let's begin with this, the dish or whatever they call it. And the first thing we gotta do is install those rubber bushing and washers that we removed from the OEM. At this point it's time to put the dash on it. So it goes something like this. Easy way to remember is the QR code. The QR code in there, it's where the notch is. Once we do that, we get the provided Allen and washer, and we put it in. And at this point, we get the main bracket, I believe, like this, leaving space for the connector. So now you have this, and this goes on the bike. It's now time to put the U-bolt back in and put the lower riser from Rizoma in. Now this is the way you do it. You get the big U-bolt through the Rizoma. Do not forget about this little washer. The washers stay the OEM washer, top and bottom. The riser goes into the bracket, the washer goes into the bolt, and then everything into the hole, like that. There is a possibility of moving the handlebar 5mm forward or backwards, depends how you put the riser in. The riser is not symmetrical, one side is longer than the other, so by rotating this, you move the handlebar 5mm forward from the bolt. If you move it, if you turn it the other way, it's 5mm behind the U-bolt. What I'm gonna do is put some thread lock on the bottom side. Amazingly enough, the Rizoma are a 14mm nut on the bottom and 45 Newton meters, and it keeps moving. Okay, 45 Newton meters. The way I was able to solve it, I just put a buttload of grease in there, and that seemed to help a lot. Yeah, still straight. So I'm gonna do the same to this one. Catch you up in a minute. Now that the risers are positioned and torqued properly, it's time to put the wiring harness into the dash. Now, to facilitate this, I'm gonna remove the dash from the bracket, and I'm gonna see how this thing fits in over here. So this one goes that way, and you just press it in, make sure the clamp in the back clicks. And now let's try to put this over there. Now I'm gonna put the screws back in it. I measured and drilled the hole exactly as the OEM bars were. So now the bar is ready to be put in, and while I was measuring, I actually weighted both bars. It turns out the Rizoma is less than half the weight of the OEM. I believe the OEM was around 1300 grams, while the Rizoma is around 500 or so grams. So there is a big difference. But let's start putting the bar on it and put the proper clamp where they're supposed to be. Remember to tie them on a crisscross pattern. Start putting stuff back together. Since I drilled the holes in it, this one fits properly, and once it's on, it doesn't slide because the prong is inside the hole. The Rizoma bars are on, and the bracket that moves the cluster from in front to the center is on as well. It looks great. I like it quite a bit. I'm a very symmetric guy when it comes to those things, so I like it a lot. What's left to do is to get rid or reroute most of those wires up front. And fortunately, we have the windshield that kind of keeps it all contained, and it's all right there. This is the end of episode 1. Next week on Friday, as always, at 2:30 p.m. Pacific time, I'm gonna publish episode 2, and episode 2 is gonna be the throttle tamer, the new mirrors, and the new grips, on top of having all this wiring situation resolved and the gear indicator moved somewhere, and on and on and on. So for the finished product, I'll see you guys next week. Till then, for everything or most of what I used in this video, check the description down below. There is going to be a link for them. And there is also going to be a link to support the channel. If you guys like what I'm doing, support the channel. Till then, ride on, and I'll see you next time.